ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Up the U's, the channel dedicated to my love and hopefully your love, all things Colchester United. We're jumping on the bandwagon. We're doing our new predictions for the new season. We're doing it with a little bit of a twist. We're only going to focus on Colchester United because at the end of the day, it's the team that I know, it's the team that you know. Who cares about the other 23 teams in the league? Because we're going to win it. I am joined today by Aaron, who is the guy behind Beyond The Barside. Absolutely amazing content creator and content around Colchester United. So, Aaron, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, mate. Thank you very much for having me. Beyond the Barside is a fan-led podcast that we started for this season. It's an audio and video format that comes out weekly on a Saturday morning to tie in with Colchester's fixtures, really, with additional bonus content coming out every month or so. So we're fortunate enough to be speaking to BBC Essex this week, and a podcast will come out after that as a result of that. And I'll be speaking to a former player and manager of Colchester United this week as well, which will be coming out as a bonus content for August too.
Awesome. There we go. Some things to look forward to for the podcast. I'll leave all the links to Beyond the Barside down below. Please do head over to X, to Instagram, to YouTube. Give them a like, give them a follow. Absolutely amazing content that they do over there. So to start off, Aaron, we will get to know you. We know about Beyond the Barside, but we don't know about you. So the first question I've got to ask you, why do you support Colchester United?
Well, my family are Colchester fans is the short answer of it. My dad has been a Colchester United fan well over 50, 60 years. So it was sort of inevitable that I would end up being a Colchester fan. I had a season ticket from the age of 4 onwards. So I've sort of been in and around the games for quite a while.
You've seen the highs, you've seen the lows, and you've seen some players come through the door that have probably lit you up, and you've also seen some players where you sit there and think, well, I'm a better footballer than him. How is he a professional?
Yeah, so when I started watching Colchester, we were what was Division 2, so League 1, and then we had the Championship season some years later. So I'm very fortunate that Colchester have always been in the Football League during my sort of supporter tenure. Obviously, there was a few close calls, but you know, generally we've been a pretty stable team to support. So it's been nice.
Awesome. So hopefully there is a few stories behind this next question. What's your best away day?
That's a good one. I would say Chelsea in the FA Cup was a big one. It was obviously the year we went up as well, so we were in good form. We were well supported that year because we were picking up decent results. It was late in the rounds within the FA Cup, and it was a Chelsea team where even though it wasn't their strongest 11, there was a significant amount of players in that team that had recently gone to a major tournament. There were a lot of internationals there, and we put a good account of ourselves there as well. It was we went 1-0 up, and then they needed to bring out the big guns to put us away.
Yeah, I think they brought on, I think it was like Lampard and Drogba and Joe Cole at half time because they were like, hang on a minute, who's this little Essex team that have come to London? I thought there would have been 2 extra people at that game. Me and my dad were due to go to it. I still have my unused Chelsea tickets sitting somewhere. He fell ill the night before, and like you, I support Colchester because of my father. If I can't go to a Colchester game without him, it's very hard for me to want to go to a game. So there'd have been 2 more people there, but unfortunately not. So obviously that season, the season we got promoted, is obviously the what the kit this year is sort of inspired around. What's of all the kits that we've had, home, away, third, the kit that we wore for the game for Ukraine, what's been your favourite Colchester United kit?
It's interesting because that's a question that I've been mulling over myself recently. I think it's a toss up between two. The red and black Ridley's kit that we had, I think it was around 2002. I think we had that as our away strip. I really like the sort of black and red designs, and we've had a few over the years, but that one sort of sticks out potentially due to nostalgia. Or the couple of years later, we then had an orange and black one with the Tiptree sign on,
Yep.
and I recall us being very soundly beaten at home to Southend in the LDV Vans Trophy. Pinal scored a worldie, but we got absolutely battered. It's a toss up between those two. I don't think I could go one way or the other.
To be fair, they are both solid kits. Yeah, that orange kit is a bit of an odd one because I don't think we've ever gone back to sort of an orange kit like it. But yeah, as soon as you said that in my head, I was just thinking like Craig Fagan was the first player that
Yeah,
come into my head for that kit,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, that brings me back to some memories. Obviously, we kick off our season on Saturday with Tranmere at home, 3 o'clock kickoff. What do you prefer? Do you prefer watching 3 o'clock on a Saturday, or do you prefer the game under the lights at 7:45 kickoff?
3 o'clock Saturday. I think I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to stuff like that. Obviously, the Salford and Accrington games being changed to sort of suit TV coverage is great. If you can't make the games, it's a lot more difficult for the fans that do try and make the games. So, as much as I can, I'd prefer it to be 3 o'clock kickoffs.
Yeah, there is something special about watching your team under the lights as long as they win. If they lose, you then sort of sit there and you wake up the next morning a bit sort of like, ugh. But when you've won, you're like, I don't care that I'm tired. That's what coffee was invented for. So as you say, you've been watching Colchester for many years. Who is your one player that you absolutely love? Who is your favourite Colchester player?
I think it's hard to look past Loire Loire. Although he didn't play a huge amount of games for us, it was one of those situations where a talent came along that was just ridiculous. And I mean, there were moments where we were playing away from home and he was being cheered by the home supporters. And at one point, I think it was against Preston, he was announced over the tannoy as the man of the match, and it wasn't even his home ground that was doing it. So I think for situations like that to occur, it's a very special player.
Yeah, it's one of like you say, he didn't play many games for us, but he honestly he does go down as a sort of legend. It's very similar to obviously last season when we had Jamie McDonnell. Only played
Mm,
one season with us, or say a little bit more than probably what Luwalawa did, but instantly he'll be someone that if you were to say to like Colchester fans of the sort of younger age group, that'll probably be a name that they go to because he was just loved by everyone. And I've sort of messaged um, members of his family, and they've said how much that he's loved the club, how much the Cowleys loved him, and how much he loves the fans. And he's loved by the fans. We love him. Like it'd be brilliant if we could have got him back, but he's gone to Mansfield. And I think 20 minutes into his first game, Mansfield were like, "Yeah,
yeah.
we can see what the hype was about." So it is honestly incredible. Um, this is a player that could fall into the next two questions. Jamie McDonald could fall into this question, and it could possibly for you be a name you've already mentioned. Who is a player that you wish never left the club?
Um, that's a very good question. I suppose Schmodix is a very good one, just considering the work rate that he gave us and the quality that he gave us, and the fact that he's a Colchester boy as well is always a good thing because you know that he's going to play for the shirt every single time, which he did, and he has gone on to do at the clubs that he's ended up going to.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'd say from a selfish point of view, I would have loved Schmodix to be with us throughout this sort of dark period that we had when he wasn't a Colchester player, and to see what the Cowleys would have done with a technical player like Sammy would have been really interesting. But obviously he went on to have a very successful career, and he's, just spent a season playing in the Premier League, playing Championship football where they're going to be hoping to compete for a promotion place. So you can't really begrudge someone that sort of opportunity.
No, it was very clear to see that Sammy's ceiling was a lot higher than the JCS, and I think the video that we put out where he came back and he was talking about the move where he went from us to Bristol, and that just
Hmm.
wasn't the right move for him. He also then comes a little bit closer to home to Peterborough, then gets the move to Blackburn to Ipswich.
Hmm.
Do you reckon we'll see him in a blue and white shirt again one day?
I mean, I don't think it's anything that he'd be against. I think he'd be a very old man when that does happen. I think he's got many, many years left in his legs. But never say never. I'm just thinking about, Duguid came back a bit later in his career and still did a job. It would be a lovely way to end his career. So yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah, never say never, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's one of them where you sort of think in the back of your head like Sismodics, maybe Alex Gilby, Frankie Kent. You'd
Hmm.
love them all just to come back just because of the nostalgia, because they came through at a young age, and you sort of think, will they come back one day? But yeah, they will be a lot older. So you think, do you come back and sort of retire at the club where you started, or do you and be maybe not as good as what you was, or do you sort of just leave it as it is and let the fans remember Sammy for what he was? But yeah, I think
Yeah, it's a conversation that we're having now, aren't we, with Lyle Taylor, that, is our head ruling our heart in wanting him to stay on for another year? Obviously, we don't know the specifics of his injury and we don't know the specifics of his physical condition generally. But there's a lot to be said for the character that someone can put into a group and how much that can give that group to then push on as a collective. So even if, technically, physically, we're perhaps not where we were or where we would like to be, there is a psychological and social element that can be taken into the equation.
yeah, I think you've said it perfectly. I think it is one of them things where you sit there and you're like, love to see Lyle in the blue and white again. But then you sit there and you look at the squad and you think, can he actually feature at the moment? If he comes in, does that mean someone else has to go? And it's one of them where you think, I'd love to have him play again, but is it going to work if he does another year? But it's good to see. I think he put on his Instagram he had boots on for the first time I think in a
He
while. So
did,
it's
yeah.
good to see that he's potentially coming back. I think he had another scan last week, so he might have had the scan and they've said everything's all good. You're good to go on the grass. So I was actually talking to my dad about it. What would be amazing is if Lyle was actually there on Saturday, and
Hmm.
you'd probably be able to pick him out with the blonde locks if he was just sitting behind the bench and just helping the players get the victory. So obviously, where I spoke about Jay McDonald just a minute ago, who is a lone player that you wish was made permanent?
We've had some half decent loans over the years. Obviously, the one that was made permanent ended up being one of the most successful players we had in Jamie Curriton. Um, but we have had some loan players that have gone on and had fantastic careers. So one that sticks in my head at the moment is Jacob Murphy. That he was a part of a side that potentially were underachieving a little bit, and possibly should have been a lot higher up the table than they were. But he was a standout performer in that side, and look at the career he's gone on to have. That what could have been if he'd have potentially had another year with us.
Yeah, when when you think back to obviously like Jacob Murphy, when you actually think back to some of the players we've had on loan, we always used to get really good tricky wingers, and you think like,
Hmm.
yeah, Jacob Murphy, Sanchez Watt, Sylvester Jasper, Takari Fosu,
Yeah.
like it was something that we found a winger that was quick, really skillful, lit the world alight. We were like, that'd be brilliant if we can sign him. Oh, he's gone to a championship team. And it
Yeah.
was like, how are we finding all these really good, tricky wingers? But yeah, it was, yeah, I think Jacob Murphy is the one where you sort of sit there and think, like, to the career that he's had, like what a player he was for us. He was obviously not really in the Newcastle squad, and then past couple of years he's cemented his place in there. And yeah, you sort of sit there and you see him scoring goals in the Premiership, and you're like, he's. I watched him play for Col U. Like, it is mental. A little bit of a sort of a downer question. What's your
Mhm.
worst Col U memory?
Ooh,
You didn't go to Forest Green a couple of years ago, did you?
no, I didn't. I mean, we, as I said, generally, there have been some sort of lower mood times as being a Colchester fan, but I've been fortunate enough never to see us sort of drop out the league. Obviously, the relegation from League One was quite difficult, but also it was a long time coming. We'd survived by the skin of our teeth the year before. Um, I tell you, one thing that sticks in my head is I remember exactly where I was the day Paul Lambert went to Norwich. And
Hmm.
although we were fine, we ended up having AD Boothroyd come in for quite a period after that. It was still something that I remember really vividly because you sort of felt like a bit of a betrayal there. And I know a lot of older youth fans will probably have felt the same when Burley went to Ipswich. Um, I think that possibly hurts a little bit more because you've put your faith and support into a leader, and for that leader to then go on just to sort of further their own career, it's understandable, but it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, definitely. I remember it like it was yesterday, the opening day of the season, going to
Hmm.
Carrow Road, doing them 7-1, and then Norwich coming to our stadium and doing us 5-0, but we beat them 7-6 on aggregate that year. So
Yeah.
it weren't too bad. But yeah, I remember Lambert going there. And then the game when he came back to our place, I remember saying to my dad, I was like, this could get a bit hostile for him. And I always remember Grant Holt, 'cause it was raining
Hmm.
so bad that day. Grant Holt's barely slide to, I think, it was to make it 4 or 5-0, and it was like,
Yeah.
it was one of them where you're like, Lambert definitely had the last laugh that day. But
Yeah, and Holt
yeah,
was a player that we'd tried to sign when Lambert was the Colchester manager. So
yeah,
what could we have sort of had as a group if he'd
yeah,
have just tried to get us up rather than go to the club with the bigger reputation
yeah.
and the bigger ground and more resources, etc.
Yeah. Put it in black and white. More money. That was the main thing. More money. So before we go into our predictions for this season, we've had your worst memory. You spoke earlier about the away day to Chelsea. What's your best Colchester memory?
um, I suppose I was at Yeovil when we went up, and that doesn't. I think all other memories pale in comparison to that because obviously it was unprecedented that a club like Colchester go up. The Yeovil supporters were absolutely brilliant. They couldn't have wanted us to go up more, and it was one of those things. It went down to the last day. If we'd have won and Southend would have lost, we could have won the title. Um, if we'd have lost and Brentford won, then that could have been us fighting in the playoffs for the next
Mhm.
month or so. So it was amazing. The atmosphere of it, the fact that we ground out results week after week after week against a really good Southend side and a Brentford side managed by Martin Allen, who, is notorious at making teams that are difficult to beat. So for it all to culminate in that 0-0 draw away at Yeovil
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah, I was a little lad when we went to that game. I had my blue and white wig on,
Mhm.
Obviously, being very young, didn't really sort of know what was going on with football. But as soon as that final whistle went, the cheers, the celebrations, and then the parade through the town centre.
Yeah,
It's one of the things. Yeah, you sit there and you think, uh, when is that going to happen again? Is it going to be this year? We never know. But yeah, Yeovil for me straight away. If I get asked the question, I'm like that day. Yeah, the football might not have been brilliant. It might have been a 0-0 draw, but yeah, as soon as that final whistle went, it was like we've done it. Little bit of a sort of sour taste in your mouth because we came second behind Southend, but it was one of them. It was like both of the teams in Essex have,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you say, have defined all the odds and both got promoted. So fair play to them both. But yeah, no. To be fair, that is a memory that I will probably remember for the rest of my life. And yeah, it was a fantastic. I think obviously the Carabao Cup run recently where we got to go up to Manchester.
Hmm.
That was a very exciting run. Um, yeah, the Chelsea game. Like there've been some brilliant memories, but yeah, I think getting promoted at Yeovil was probably up there for me as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, perfect, awesome. So we've got to know Beyond the Barside. We've got to know you. So now what we'll do is we will jump into our predictions for this season.
cool.
So I sent you over a little list of different sort of points. I did
Yeah,
put it out onto Twitter as well, so thank you everyone that responded with all of your suggestions. So for this season, top goal scorer, who are you thinking?
I think Will Goodwin is nailed on. I don't think it will be a huge amount. We spoke about it on Beyond the Bar side fairly recently that we've never really had that talisman, and the last one that I could think of that was sort of that elusive 20 goal a year striker was Lisby. Um, Obviously, we've got three Lisbys now that could chip in sort of 6 or 7 each and do what their dad did. But I think Goodwin between 10 and 15, I think there will be decent amounts from other people. I think Williams will knock a few out. I think Payne will also do the same. Edwards, if we can keep hold of him, touch wood, will also contribute with a few, but I'm going to go Will Goodwin.
Yeah, I've got the exact same. I think when he came in, all of the Oxford fans were saying keep him injury free, keep him fit, and he will score goals. And in pre-season, he just looks like a natural goal scorer. He looks like
Hmm.
someone that I always said it to my dad that players like Lyle Taylor, Michael Cheek, when he was at Notts County, Macaulay Langstaff, and like Paul Mullin, they're not players that will make darting runs out wide to get the ball. They'll just operate in between the goalposts, and that will be
Hmm.
their area. And they know that if the ball falls to him in that spot, that's where they'll score the goals. Goodwin's got the ability to get in behind and make them runs in, but he does just seem like someone go, well, if I'm all the way over on the left wing, I ain't going to score a goal. I'll let Edwards, Gordon,
Hmm.
Anderson, Lisby, Thorne, I'll let them do that because they're going to put the ball and they're going to pull it into this spot. And he does just seem like he's someone that knows where the goal is. And I said it last year when Taylor was in that has learned off of Taylor a lot, and now Tavide's got another teacher to learn from. He's got Goodwin to
Hmm.
learn from and pick elements up of him. So yeah, like you saying, everyone's sort of been saying on Twitter, I think Will Goodwin is going to be up there as the top, if or one of, if not the top goal scorer.
Hmm.
Um, so Will Goodwin's going to score the goals. Who's going to set him up?
Um, it's an interesting. I think the way we're going to set up is we're going to hit the channels and pump it into the box. I think especially without having a number 10 at the moment, we're going to have to rely on that. The play's going to be focused down both flanks. So I think it will be very much dependent on who Danny and Nikki prefer to play either side. So for that reason, I'm going to go for Harry Anderson.
Interesting. I was torn between two. I was torn between Teddy Bishop and Jack Payne. I think
Hmm.
Payne is obviously going to play in that sort of role behind the striker when we play with like a 4-2-3-1 system.
Yeah.
I think there will be games where we do send it down the wings. I was thinking a winger until we've sort of seen how the team sets up. I just couldn't pick between any of the sort of 5, 6 that we've got. So I did go for Jack Payne, obviously top assister last year. I sort of sat there and thought, I think he'll do the same sort of thing. He could play in that 10, he could play in that sort of centre mid role alongside Bishop, Perry, and Gape. But yeah, I think there are going to be, with the height that we've now got with Goodwin, and that's not saying that Taylor or Tavito were small, but
Yeah.
I think crossing is going to be a big part, potentially a big part of our game this season. And I think as well with other reason why I went with Payne, I think corners as well. I think potentially this year we might see a few more set piece goals from corners,
Yeah.
because that's the one thing that Danny said last year that he was like annoyed with, was the defenders weren't chipping in with many goals. But we all remember Kelleher's goal at Newport.
I think it's something that they're quite comfortable with as well, Danny and Nicky, when they've managed sides like Lincoln that had sort of limited resources, they stuck with a system that was fairly simplistic of hit the channel, hit the big man, score. And it worked very well for them. And they had players that worked very hard within that system. So I think once they establish that system and once we get Payne back from injury, obviously I don't know how long he's going to be out for, how many games we're going to miss Jack Payne for. But I would imagine that Danny and Nicky are going to want to hit the ground running. So, if the system works 5 games in and Jack Payne's returning to full fitness, do they change it or do they sort of stick with what they've got and ease him in gradually?
Yeah, yeah. I think that is the sort of the main thing. Is like we used to hear the talks around Taylor's injury. Obviously, we understand or found out that we lost Ellis. Haven't really heard much about Payne and what's up with him. Whether it's just a sort of slight injury, whether it's quite a serious injury like Ellis is. But I suppose time will tell on that one.
I mean, he's been in and about the friendlies as well. Like Payne's been there.
Yeah,
So, people perhaps sort of scaremongering amongst X and Facebook thinking that he's leaving. I don't think he'd be at the games if he was looking to go elsewhere.
yeah,
So I think there's definitely an injury at play. They've been quite coy with what it is. Again, I think they're trying to manage people's expectations and not create a sort of negative atmosphere before the season starts. Although just before stepping on this call, they've dropped a bombshell of there being no programs, and that's
yeah.
absolutely riled people up quite
That,
rightly. So
yes, indeed.
it's I think they're just sort of managing expectations. They know what the atmospheres can be like, so they're hedging their bets a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it is an interesting one. When I was at the open day after I'd had my chat with Danny, I then spoke to him for a little bit longer.
Hmm.
And I did mention to him about Jack Payne, and I sort of said that the age that he's at, I kind of feel like if he does get another move, it's going to be a local move, because he is all of the teams he's played for. It's like MK, Charlton, Cambridge, Southend. They've all been not in Essex, but like in the sort of area.
Yeah,
He's sort of 30 years old, so you then sit there and think, right, the teams that are around us, is he going to go to Cambridge? We're in the same league. Is he going to go to the league above? Like, how high could he go? It's an odd one with Payne. So of all the new players that we have signed this season, who do you think is going to be the best signing?
I think short term, I think Will Goodwin will have a very good season. I think long term, we've got a very good player in Jaden Williams. He comes from great stock, being at Tottenham Hotspur throughout his youth career. He's been coached by some fantastic coaches at Spurs. Postecoglou was very much involved in the development sides and was very much supporting those younger players and youth coaches in bringing the next crop of talent through, which sort of seemed to be the case towards the back end of the season when his hand was forced. So I think we've got a very good technical young player coming into the club, and it's up to us to sort of bring him up to speed with the senior game, toughen him up a little bit. But I think once he gets used to that more physical element of League Two compared to kids football, I think he'll be flying.
Yeah. Yeah, when he first came in, I was thinking like that'll be a good sort of player to have maybe for the sort of I don't even know what it's called at the moment, but it was the Virtue Trophy. It'll probably change tomorrow now I've said that. Um I was thinking, yeah, that'd be a good player to have for them sort of fixtures. And then you sort of see him in pre-season and you're like, "Do you know what, actually he's knocking on the door
Hmm.
for maybe not quite ready to be the starter, but definitely, as Danny always mentions, definitely be one of the finishers, like towards the end
Yeah.
of a game where it's like we need to really press them, bring him on, his energy, his pace, his agility, and get at a sort of older defence and try and sort of like the MK game last season, brought on Milton Oney just to charge down the defence. And then as soon as
Hmm.
the ball was going to Dean Lewington, that was Oney's trigger player. So he used his sort of quick ability to charge him down, and then he was the one that set up the break for the first goal. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think he could be a interesting one this season.
and I think younger players, if they've got the right attitude, it's easier to mold them into a system. So, we're going to have to play a particular way if we're going to be successful. What that looks like, I don't know. Only Danny and Nicky do,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't be shocked to see him start Saturday, to be honest. I think with the lack of number 10 that we've got, Payne not being available, Scully going to Shrewsbury, he obviously played the two up top against Peterborough and sort of used a pivot system where either Goodwin dropped into the 10 when Jaden was pushing forward and vice versa. So I think that's how we'll go against Tranmere. And obviously, Jaden got a goal out of that system. So I think that's how we'll start. But I can see him potentially starting, dropping off midway through the season and then finishing quite strongly with us.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, we have obviously got quite a few sort of quite young players, but we also got a few sort of players that are potentially sort of like Teddy Bishop last year played very, very well, but had a couple of injuries.
Mhm.
Who do you think like this year is going to be their sort of season? Who's going to be the breakout star?
Um, it's a difficult one, really, because I think, I mean, I suppose I've mentioned Jaden Williams already. I think there's probably an element of that there. It wouldn't shock me if Ben Perry picks up a lot of awards by the end of the season too. And I'd be interested to see what happens with Ronnie Harvey because his cameos in pre-season have been really, really good. He looks like a player that isn't afraid to get stuck in at such a young age and he's got bags of energy. So as I say, younger players, they're easier to mould into a system. So if they've got an idea of what they want to do with him, I can see Ronnie Harvey, potentially being one of those season finishers as opposed to a season starter.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think there are a lot of very, very exciting youth players to come through. I've put down Oscar Thorne. I think
Mhm.
he is going to be one that um he's playing obviously in the sort of slightly deeper position at the right back due to obviously not
Mhm.
really having much of the cover. And from what I understand, he is really thriving in that position. And he's got the speed to be able to maybe, which is where we lacked it a little bit last season with Ebo, that when he sort of looks over his shoulder and thinks, "Oh, I'm 5 yards out of position," Thorne's got that pace to get that 5 yards back really quickly. So it could be quite an interesting position to see him play. And he loves to cross the ball in. So maybe crossing it in from a bit deeper, sort of over towards a back stick for a Warren Edwards to run onto and slot it in or cut it back across the goal. I think Thorne could be a interesting player and have a really, really good season this year. So the start of the season is on Saturday against Tranmere. Before a ball
Mhm.
is even kicked, who you're putting down as your player of the season?
I think Teddy Bishop's probably nailed on. He's had a good
Yeah,
pre-season. There's a wealth of talent in the middle of midfield this season, which we didn't have last year. Obviously, we had to call upon Ellis and Tucker to come into the midfield for periods. So I think he'll be given the rotation that he needs to stay fit throughout the season. I don't think there'll be large periods where we're missing him. I think we'll be able to manage his fitness a lot better this year with the players we've got in that position. So I think we see a Teddy Bishop that's determined to do well and kick on after a little bit of a stop-start career for the last few years.
Yeah, I think keep him injury free, and I think this could be the year where Teddy Bishop sort of re-establishes himself and maybe can prove to the sort of higher teams that he can play outside of League Two. But yeah, you mentioned Jack Tucker. I actually have Jack Tucker down as our best new signing. I think he
Mm-hmm.
came in last season as a sort of a player, sort of like what I mentioned about Williams, like he'll be a good sort of backup. And then with the illnesses we had, the injuries to McDonnell, he actually came in and was like, do you know what? He's actually a really, really good player. And I think him and Flanagan could potentially have a really, really good partnership
Yeah.
for this season.
There was a bit of
Um,
obviously there was a concern when he came in because a lot of MK Dons fans were a bit skeptical about us signing him. They sort of they slated him really, didn't they?
yeah,
But they played a system where they were trying to play out from the back, and we don't. So
yeah,
he's not getting caught short in possession with us. He's allowed to be a centre half with Flanagan. So
yeah,
I think the way we set up is very much suited to Tucker.
yeah. So the last question that I've got for you, some of the other sort of creators out there, for the positions that they've got us, you've got friend of the channel, Matt on Jills in the Blood TV has got us in fifth. Not the Top 20 Pod has got us in seventh. Blackburn Rover
Hmm.
Seas have us in fifth. Cods Vlog sixth. Callum Fowler 11th, which I thought was a bit odd. Notts County Talk, Jordan has us in eighth. Tom has us in fifth. Luca Talks Dons has us seventh. Gab has us in third. Super Sadler Seb, put my teeth into that one, has us seventh, and SHD Plus has us in eighth. Where have you got us finishing this season?
Fifth. I think we'll
Oh,
start strong. I think we'll dip, and then I think we'll end strong as well. I think we've got a bit more depth there to manage the injuries as opposed to last year. So yeah, I think we'll finish in fifth.
I've got us in fourth, so we're pretty much on the exact same wavelength. Aaron, thank you so much for jumping on with me tonight. Everyone, make sure you head over to Beyond the Barside, give them a like, give them a follow, give them all the love. They have got some amazing content coming out soon, and look forward to that hidden interview with the former player stroke manager. But that has been our 25-26 predictions for this season. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And remember, up the use.